Okay, we're good.
You ready?
Yes, sir. Hi.
What's up? What's up? Welcome to the update. To the update. To the update. To the update. Welcome to our January update. Pastoring and serving the lovely people here in downtown Phoenix. Thank you guys so much for your support.
Yes.
Of myself and Erin.
It means a lot.
It means a lot to us. You allow us to do the work we believe God's asked us to do.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for doing it with us.
Yeah.
Participating.
Yeah. It is a partnership, right? Mm-hmm. They're doing it with us.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Should we begin?
Let us talk.
Okay, Kendall. What's been going on at Neighborhood Ministries?
You want me to start?
For January? Yes, I want you to start.
Let me pull out my stuff. So January was a crazy month. I feel like in January we had this discussion with the pastor at Neighborhood Church, Jimmy Martinez, who would do these meetings and talk kind of church and what they're talking about and everything. We'll meet as a few staff members and Jimmy, and he had kind of just was asking how's everyone's January, kind of like is kind of a rough and a lot of stuff that was going on at the beginning of January at Neighborhood Ministries. And so I was just asking how's everyone doing. And I think I was just like, man, it'd be good to call false start, right? Like when you run a race.
Yeah.
And you end up, someone does something wrong, and they call for a start, and they say, restart the race, redo the race, and it's like, I want to redo, right? This year, and that's what I feel like.
Yeah. And
so the beginning of January for Neighborhood was hard. We had some families, kind of throughout since like 2020, COVID and COVID deaths and the seriousness of COVID hadn't really grabbed hold of our community. All of that largely throughout 20 and 2021. And so it was like this beginning 2022, it was just like people that we know and the people we serve as families had deaths because of COVID. And so there was like multiple deaths, at least 3 that's in my head right now, maybe more, of the families that we serve at Neighborhood Ministries who's had a family member die. And then I had a couple students who had passed too to substance abuse. Students who I didn't really know, but have been around the community of Neighborhood for a long time. And I know people from their family. And so coming alongside them and kind of like, it's a cool and sweet thing at Neighborhood Ministries where when one person hurts, right, we all hurt. And it really is family and community where it's like, how can we come around this person who's hurting, who's in pain right now? And so it was a tough kind of beginning. And because of that, because of some of the deaths and the COVID spike, that was crazy. We kind of pushed back some of our in-person programs, a lot of our in-person programs. Yeah. And so like all the stuff that we had in store for January, like some of January, the beginning of it as we were kind of planning on coming back. January for us at the Sueños Youth Center, the Sueños team, that's the youth department at Neighborhood Ministries that I work under. We kind of spend January as a time of kind of planning and prepping for the rest of the year, at least until summer when our summer programs start. And as it's hard for us to do that, we're planning and trying to prepare for all this stuff, and things keep getting pushed back for the dates that we want because of the COVID spike. Yeah. And so it was like I'd be promoting something on social media, on the TikTok or on Instagram for the students to say, hey, come to this event, come to our Wednesday night gathering again, all this stuff. And it's actually like, oops, we're going to do it next week. And we keep pushing it back. And so it felt good last week, Wednesday. What would have that been?
It wasn't the 19th, it was the 23rd.
I think it was the 23rd.
I feel like it was.
Last week for us, which was January
or the 26th.
Yeah, January 26th was our first time back in person Wednesday nights. Yep. And so that was so exciting. That was awesome to have. I think people got a lot of life and just seeing each other in person again.
Yeah.
I mean, that space at Neighborhood Ministry is such a sacred space for those youth to come to. For some of them, right, coming to there is like an escape from hard stuff that they have at home or school. They view coming to Neighborhood Ministries space as an escape. And then some of it is just like, man, this is the only time I get to see like some of my friends and these neighborhood friends. And so it was cool on Wednesday for people just to come back full of joy and full of energy and happiness, just to be back. And so that felt really good. And then we have had a couple of our volunteers, Selena and Alex, who are great volunteers on Wednesday nights, who they work at this T-shirt shop that's part of Neighborhood Ministries called Opportunities.
Opportunities.
Yeah, kind of cool play on word. But they're great. As volunteers, just super passionate about God and Jesus. And one thing that Selena had said to me that end of the Wednesday night, because a lot of our youth and we want to give them different opportunities for them to grow spiritually and figure out what their spiritual life means to them and their own spiritual journey. And so a lot of them don't really vibe right with the concept of like Jesus and the Jesus that's sometimes presented to them that they've had in the past, or a lot of times, honestly, from white evangelical spaces. So a lot of the work I'm doing is like rediscipling people and rediscipling the youth. But also something that Selena had said, she was like, man, it's easy. You tell a lot of the people that the families we serve in demographic, like they believe in a devil. They believe in evil. Yeah. They believe in devil. They believe in evil because they see it, harm and suffering all around them. You tell them there's a God who loves them and is blessing them. They're like, what? Like, where is he at? Right? It's like, where is he at? Because they see so much suffering and hurt and things all around them that it's hard to believe that. And Selena had kind of was opening my eyes to that as we were talking the end of that Wednesday, which kind of just helped me, I think, even set spiritually of really where we're going to go this semester and the things we talk about, and the starting point for them, right? That God is there in the harm, that God is still there in the evil, and talking about God's presence still being with us and all of that. And so excited about that. That's powerful. Again, it's just such a blessing to have them come volunteer and help out. And so that was fun Wednesday night starting. What else happened this month? At the neighborhood, we had our volunteer global training, which was fun. We were prepping for that this month of getting the volunteers together from Crystal, who's the kids director, and she works with kindergarten to seventh graders, and then the youth department's 8th grade to college. And so we can get all of our volunteers together to train them, to talk about kind of the curriculum we're going to go for on the Monday night kids gathering, Wednesday night youth gathering, and then also talk about some trauma-informed things. And so we were prepping it, had all this stuff in store to meet in person. We were ordering food, all this stuff. And then a couple of our staff members, their family members got COVID. And so, their family members end up getting COVID.
The spike is hard.
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah. And then, everyone was just kind of ended up being out, and staff was just falling out. Yeah. And so, like, well, let's move it on to Zoom. And so it was this past Saturday. We met on Zoom for the training, which was good, and it was exciting to I thought it was really good. Yeah, to get all the volunteers there. And I think one of the students who had died to substance abuse, it was related to one of our volunteer members. And it was like, man, I really would love to really intentionally this semester have a space for volunteers to connect with one another, for us to disciple one another and disciple each other and grow together. Yeah. Just so we're that community for one another when stuff like that happens, that this is an extra layer of people loving and believing in you. Yeah. But that volunteer global training was awesome. And then just promoting all of the programs that were started. Those are kind of the major things. I won't get into too much of the weeds of what happened this month, but we'll get into the fun things of next month, which is tomorrow, the time we're recording this.
Tomorrow's February 1st.
But so promoting all the programs this month, and programs start, right? Knock on wood. Next, this upcoming month.
If all goes well.
Yeah, all goes well. And so we have Tech Fridays that are starting, robotics class for our kids on Fridays. I was wanting to teach martial arts this semester too, and we do that on Fridays, but it's still kind of up in the air, dependent on when my surgery is. Yeah. When I finally have to have surgery. And then we're opening up our space for students to come in for homework help. So after school, students can come in, kind of drop in, allow it to be that third space they get from home and school. They can come to the neighborhood and relax, do homework. Yeah, and we have different tutors and people there too right after school. And then social justice is starting on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is my coworker, Alfonso Vasquez, who's a social justice coordinator. And that's what he's going to be doing. He's going to lead the social justice initiative, and they're kind of focusing on the extension of the light rail and the streets, and kind of more specifically with that is kind of paying attention to like what's happening into the demographic of our city, gentrification, people being pushed out, displaced, and that's kind of going to be their focus.
That's really cool. Yeah,
this semester. And Fonzie was like, so how are we going to teach? He's like, I'm teaching critical race theory. Like, man, I heard they ain't teaching it in schools. Fonzie was like, he's like, we got to talk about it. He's like, that's going to be in the curriculum.
And that's going to be on Wednesday nights, one of the classes?
That's Tuesdays and Thursdays. Social justice.
Okay.
But also part of Wednesday nights, again, which is the program that I lead at Neighborhood. We are going to give some time, 30 minutes, for different development teachers to come in to teach stuff on like emotional health, mental health, and then also give someone from Fonzie's team 30 minutes too every other week to share what's going on in the social justice team, to give us an update on what they're doing, and also give too just like and that I'll kind of come in and bridge that spiritual faith and our heart for justice, and kind of put all that in front of them on those days too. And so we're excited about that. Hopefully turn our youth passionate about justice and kind of have a strong spiritual reason why they should be behind all of that. And so we're stoked for that this semester. Part of our Wednesday nights too is we're going to do different outings. One of the things that our students expressed last semester, we do this time with them and we talk to them like, what is it that you guys want? What's your guys' vision for this space? And so they talked about wanting to engage like with different spiritual traditions, with different faith traditions, just to learn from and to understand the difference. And so I was like, man, let's do some outings this semester, and we just go engage into different spaces and just witness what God's doing there, and then come back and talk about it. And so this month we're going to go to a church, Catalyst Church, that's in Maryville. My friend Tony, I'm going to join them for one of their prayer nights.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think it will be cool.
I think I have it in my calendar. I'm gonna try to get over there with you guys.
Yeah. I'll van drive maybe.
I'm sure. I'm sure you'll put me on that.
but yeah, so excited about that this semester and next month specifically. And next month is also Black History Month. Yeah. And so we're doing Fruit of the Spirit is the curriculum we're going over with the students on Wednesday nights. And so we'll probably match a Fruit of the Spirit, right, with probably the Black historical figure of like who is a good person who personified kindness, joy, peace, and all that stuff. Yeah, that's probably what we'll probably play into that some this semester with the students. And then I will say we're promoting Monday nights, which start tonight as we film this, January 31st. Monday nights officially start, and so that's all the junior leaders. And with them, we discuss their stories. Say there's power in telling our stories and really knowing our stories. And so with the junior leaders who help serve on Monday nights, I do a Bible study with them, and we're talking about stories, and we just finished talking about spiritual story, their spiritual story, and now we're going to talk about I think emotional story. And so kind of like your emotional health story.
I like that.
And I think I might have you actually come in talking one Monday and maybe talking about, maybe when we go mental story, talk about mental health story type thing. I think I have you on the calendar to talk then.
Nice.
Yep. And so
I like that.
Yeah, this month's emotional though is what we'll talk about for the junior leaders. And then we'll be promoting the summer opportunities, the internship for the summer, all that stuff. We wanted the applications to be in by March, and so we're just pushing it hard next month for students to fill that out
Yeah.
and to do all of that. And then we're trying to get people to do work crew. I'm talking to volunteers about being work crew bosses, which means kind of the volunteers for the youth who are kind of leaders for the kids during the summer day camp. And so, yeah, let me know if you want to do that.
I don't. I'm gonna contribute.
You guys let me know if you're interested.
There you go.
In helping out
I
this
am
summer
gonna
with us.
Contribute some things in some way to that space, because that's something that I want to do.
Yeah.
But I know I can't do that, but that's okay.
Yeah. But that's the biggest thing with me. And then on top of just the volunteers in general, wanting to do a brunch and things together.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'd love to honestly invite you guys or people who'd be interested in doing that too. Just even meeting other volunteers, hear what's going on, maybe invite you guys to some different meetings that we might do.
That could be cool.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Also, just continue to raise support. Will be on my docket for this year too.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your fundraising goals for 2022?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that real quick. This year, the goal is to raise $24,000. So 24,000 is what I have to raise for this year. My goal is to really increase like individual donors and have individuals give anywhere between $50 to $100, and hopefully get
A month.
a month. Yeah, exactly, $150 a month from individual donors who are giving monthly, and hopefully have my individual donors who are giving monthly for that to be about $2,500 a month, plus me reaching out to a couple of organizations and people I'm in contact with. If they give $12,000, that should kind of equal everything and hit that $24,000 number that I'm wanting to get.
That's
and so
great.
that's my goal for this year. So I'll be reaching out to individual donors. And so if you guys know anyone, email me name, contacts who might be interested in helping push the rediscipleship and the putting justice in the center of the gospel and teaching youth to carry that in their lives, and just serving the poor and low income in downtown Phoenix.
That's awesome, babe.
Yep. Be a good year.
I'm proud of you.
As crazy as the beginning of this year was, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
It's really, for me, to even just reflect on some of the stuff you said, I'm really excited. I think at first I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this. Like, I feel like we're so busy and all this other stuff. But I am really excited to figure out how we have a rhythm of meeting with the student leaders at Neighborhood. Because I feel like that is us in, like, creating our own rhythm of even what Howard Thurman did. And creating a space in your home or a home of sorts to for people to just be and to be discipled by one another, and that the people that are kind of closer to us, that are with us in the work that we're doing more specifically. So I'm excited to see what that turns into, and also how the summer plans out and unfolds, and the different events that you're doing. You know, like I one, support you as your wife, but also like as a fellow volunteer on your team. And then also just like as Kaleo, like supporting Neighborhood. And just how cool it is that, we support Neighborhood and we're about what Neighborhood is about, but also like you're the youth pastor there and we're married. You know what I mean? So it's meaningful to me. So I'm excited about that. So
it'll be a good year.
I guess now I'll get into what have I been up to with Kaleo.
Give us the update, babe.
The last month. So January 2nd, I mentioned this last time. January 2nd was our New Year's service, which was online. That was the first time that we recorded a service for the new year. It was a collaboration with Bridge Worship Collective with Donald, who worship leads at Kaleo quite often. And it was his group. They have an urban collective group of worship leaders in the Valley. And so that was really cool doing that. That went over seemingly well. We're not a big online viewership church, but we did want to create something to make it accessible to our people, if they wanted to watch and be a part of some type of spiritual movement for the beginning of the new year. And that was called Something New. So it was really cool to create one as a creator myself, to facilitate a space where Donald and the Bridge Worship Collective could collaborate with us. And then also to use our podcast studio for the first time, Chris and I recording something in there and using that to lead people through movements and create this collaborative service. So that was really meaningful that we did that. That was on the 2nd. And then the 9th, January 9th, Chris spoke, and that was the baptism of Jesus, the first Sunday of Epiphany, the season of Epiphany, if you follow the liturgical calendar. And that went really great. It was a real huge emphasis on being loved by Jesus and being baptized in an identity of being his child and being called his. So that was really meaningful. Several people gave feedback as to, man, that was exactly what I needed. There's a high emphasis, I think, as a pastor in the context of Kaleo, there's a high emphasis on how much intention we put in preparation we put into the messages, which are an overflow of the people that we interact with from Kaleo.
Yeah.
And because it's such an emphasis on spiritual formation. And I know that you know that too, because that's what you do at Neighborhood as well. But I'm seeing that, like, the more that I prepare messages, it's like, that's like a big thing that takes a lot of time and preparation and a lot of energy. And so, really proud of Chris for what he did on the 19th, the 9th. And then January 16th was the 3rd annual MLK Sunday for Kaleo, which I love MLK Sunday. That's a lot of preparation, I think, on my end as far as production or preparation, because we do a live reading of MLK's letters. Is that B inside?
Is it B in here? I don't see it.
Okay. Nah. It would have flown in. It just looked like it was on the inside for a second.
You and insects.
And I don't like bees because I used to get stung all the time as a kid.
Lord.
It's traumatic. Anyways.
Keep an eye on
MLK Sunday. We did a live reading of his letters from a Birmingham jail. And it was really cool to just do some research, and I got up there and talked about the history of the letters, where they come from, what was happening in the context of the community right before, like why he was sent to jail, and just giving some context to that. And then we went right into a live reading of that. So Kendall and I both did a live reading of the letters from a Birmingham jail. And then we had this idea. I actually had this idea of having Chris write a letter to the white people of Kaleo from a white man's perspective, which was tied to the context of letters from a Birmingham jail, which MLK talks a lot about, the white moderate. And so it was really meaningful to have Chris write a letter to Kaleo from a white male, as a challenge to the people of Kaleo, but also more specifically to the white people of Kaleo, because we have several of them, that are about this work, that are doing this work with us. And so that was really meaningful. It's recorded, so I'll probably put a link somewhere where you can listen to it if you'd like to. But that was a really meaningful Sunday. Also on the 9th, we actually had a meal. So we've been doing meals at the table together. The 2nd and 4th Sundays of every month. And so we did a meal on the 9th. Some lasagnas, some soups.
What? It wasn't lasagna.
What was it? I don't remember what we had on the 9th. I was just following you.
Lasagna was back in, I think that was back in November.
Okay.
The same as when we did lasagna. I don't remember what we had on the 9th.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but it was good. It's always been good. So that went really well. MLK Sunday. I also did a little bit of extra preparation for that day, because it was practicing the letters of speaking it, because there are some words that are a little bit difficult, but also providing pictures of MLK in jail and some pictures of the letter that was published in the newspaper of the letter from a Birmingham jail, and pictures of him with his family, so that as the letter is being read aloud, people have a visual context and kind of place themselves in the story. We also did a moment where we reflected on the life of MLK in light of him writing these letters, and how we can join him in the fight for justice as far as voting legislation, because that seems to be the thing that's happening right now contextually. And then also what was really significant about the MLK weekend was that MLK's family was here in Phoenix that same weekend. So it was cool, to be able to name that and join them in that the voter legislations. And voting bills and all of those things, and to just create attention and exposure to it was really meaningful. And that the fact that they were in our city on a Sunday, that we were also reading letters from MLK was really meaningful. So we also had footage of him. It was just really cool. I really enjoy things like that. Like, I like going the extra mile to create experiences for people to be deeply impacted by the truths and the meaning of what we're communicating. And so that's something I'm trying to carry in the different things we do at Kaleo. So that was the 16th. Then we had our first ever family meeting for Kaleo on the 22nd, which was Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for an hour. We met in the courtyard outside, and that was our first time meeting with people that are like, yeah, I'm a part of the Kaleo family. Like, I want to be a part of what we're doing here. It was also an invitation for people to meet the different people, or at least be announced or exposed to who's on our board. It was an opportunity for us to expose people to what our budget is, what it's been like, and what it is going into 2022, and invite people to participate in reoccurring giving, as that helps us figure out our budget and helps us, figure things out from month to month. It was also an opportunity to lay the groundwork for what we would call the theology of guest host, as Jesus being the guest and the host in whatever space that he showed up in the different stories in the Bible of how you see Jesus moving in different spaces. And he's simultaneously always either the guest or the host and moving in those spaces. And so we would call it the theology of the table, because that is our version of what other spaces would call small groups, because we're trying to disciple people into seeing themselves and practicing the ways of Jesus. As whatever space that you facilitate or show up in, you are always simultaneously like Jesus, the guest or the host. But we also want them to be cognizant of the fact of we are a community that is of shared leadership, that it's not a dominant space by one person and one voice, but we are also multi-ethnic and multicultural, which means that whatever spaces we facilitate and are a part of should be safe for all people in all places and all lived experiences. And so it's a difficult challenge, but a necessary one if we are going to be committed and loyal to the values of Kaleo, which consist of everything that I talked about. But it was our first time communicating that publicly to our people, and then inviting them to participate in a way where, hey, if you feel an unction or a desire to do something, how can we help you? Oh, it is a fly in here. That's what it is. I thought it was a bee. Just a fly.
Big old fly.
We'll get it later. But how can we? I hate bugs. Oh my God.
We'll
here, let me close this. Just so that it doesn't
You gonna close the door so it doesn't escape?
Yeah, because I don't want it to be out there. Okay. So, what are you looking around for?
If I see the fly, I'm gonna try to kill it.
Okay. Well, anyways, where was I? So yeah, that was a really good meeting. The family meeting was our first time. I prepared some slides to show people who our board was, which our board consists of women and people of color, which is really important to us. It was also really important to communicate that, hey, if we desire to be this in our actual church, then it has to be true from the top down. And it has to be true from us at our core. And so we wanted to visually show that, also visually showing some other things, which is really cool. We also gave people, reminded them of our volunteer opportunities with our kids, with our production. I do it in quotes because it's not really production, but just kind of set up, tear down. With our youth, when we partner with Kendall as a pastor at Neighborhood Ministries, so reminding people that they can serve there on Wednesday nights with him. Also with there's another one. I don't remember the other one, but just the different volunteer opportunities that we had. So that in our, that's right, Sunday meals, because we do that twice a month if you want to volunteer for that. And then also Grace Lutheran hosts a pancake breakfast every Sunday morning. And so we do it on rotation every 6 to 8 weeks as Kaleo. So inviting our people to participate in those different volunteer opportunities. So it was cool to see people like, hey, I want to be a part of music, or I want to be a part of the pancake breakfast. I want to be a part of this, that, and the other. So just extending that invitation, and then we recorded it. It was kind of a janky recording, to be honest, because I put my phone by the speaker and it was too loud, so it's kind of scratchy, but we did it. And we know next time, so the next family meeting I think is going to be just before summer, just before summer. So that was good. And then that was the 22nd. And then on the 23rd, I spoke, which we'll talk about later, some of the personal things that we did together with Linda Morris, which inspired this. But I spoke on liberation and genealogy, which was inspired by Linda Morris, who is a matriarch in our city. And that was just powerful. Probably, again, like I see these sermons and these things that I write as it takes a lot out of me, but I put a lot into it. And it is a representation of what God is doing in me, but also what I feel like God is doing in our people. And I try to intentionally echo what I sense the Holy Spirit is saying in our community, while also talking about the scripture passage that's aligned with the liturgical calendar and what we're on. So my passage was Luke 4:14 through 21, which is about Jesus' mission, and what he went home to the synagogue there and literally reminded the people back home what he was about and what he was doing and what he cared about. So I talk about liberation and genealogy, which was a really meaningful message for me. And then we also shared a meal together that day as well. And that we had rice and beans because we were standing in solidarity with the poor of the world. Most of the world who are poor, their meals consist of rice and beans. So every so often we will make that our meal on a Sunday night, to remind us that we exist with the poor of the world, and who don't have the luxury of having like options in what they eat, and so we did have hot sauce as an option and some salsas that people could put on top of it, but it was meaningful. And that day also was the largest service we had with children present. So that was meaningful. We've been talking with Erica about children at Kaleo and how we can create space for that in a more meaningful, impactful way. So we inserted a story time that Chris did, which was cool and meaningful as well. And then this past Sunday, which was yesterday.
So much fun.
Yeah.
The 30th.
The 30th.
Yeah, good time.
Our second iteration of Kaleo Stories, which was inspired by Rachel Egboro, who moved to New York, but she held an event here in Phoenix called The Whole Story, which was an intentional story time for Black people in our community who have stories, and just elevating Black stories and Black voices and Black lives. And our original idea was to host The Whole Story at Kaleo. But because she moved and kind of shut that down, she inspired us and encouraged us to just create our own iteration of that. So yesterday we had people from Kaleo share their stories. My sister shared a story called I Am Mom, which is really powerful. And meaningful. And Marco Perez shared a story called The Unbecoming Jesus.
I thought that was cool.
Oh my gosh.
I thought that was clever.
Yeah.
He was so creative.
Yeah, break it down really quick, babe. Just recap a little bit of how he broke it down in the 3 parts.
Well, first, I'll spoil that his middle name is Jesus. So his title, Unbecoming Jesus, he was actually referring to himself. Becoming of Jesus, of him kind of sorting things out in his own spiritual faith and journey. Then also the Unbecoming Jesus himself was also like kind of this talk of his journey of leaving like the fundamental evangelical church into where he's now at spiritually. So it kind of had this cool double meaning, first the title, but basically he had taken Richard Rohr, who's a theologian and mystic, who has this idea of order, disorder, and reorder, of saying like, man, things are formed and built up in a way in a certain order. And then there's something, an idea or person or something that then brings disorder to that, and then called to like reorder into something new. And so he basically formatted it that way and talked about his story and his ordering of coming, being converted, right, into an evangelical Christian, and then disordering of that, of like, whoa, being open to these other ideas and things. I think that fly just flew in front of the camera, so maybe you guys got it. Yeah, you guys saw some fly.
Jeez.
But and then the reordering is kind of where he is at now with his faith and spiritually, and so that was his format through telling his story, and his spiritual journey. The order, disorder, and reorder.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
I think it's so meaningful. So preparation for that was kind of a big deal because we wanted to set up why we're doing Kaleo stories, which one, it's another way to practice the ways of Jesus because storytelling is something Jesus did. Telling stories, it also allows us to create space to hear and absorb the lived experiences of the people that are in our community. It also exposes us to different cultures and different ethnicities and allows us to hold the space for people's lived experiences that we might love one another from that vantage point, which is what Jesus does for us and what he calls us to do for others. And it's a really unique way to, especially as a smaller church, but even if we were larger, I would still want to do this.
Right.
Because it exposes people to, these are stories of people that do life with me, that go to the same church with me, that go to the community and are a part of the community that I'm a part of. And a lot of times, typically in mega churches or white evangelical spaces, you hear one voice all the time, but you don't necessarily get to hear the lens of other people that make up that same space. You do if you're in a small group and things, but it's different to go to a storytelling event. That's all about telling stories. I also want us to intentionally craft the practice of telling our story, which I think Neighborhood does a really good job of. Everything that you guys say is a story, you know, and I hear that in you, and I hear you echo that as you learn from Neighborhood.
They've taught people really well just to be communicating their stories.
And all the time.
Their stories are always examples for truths they might be saying or something. It's always a story.
Yeah. And that's meaningful. And you don't forget stories. You know, you might forget principles or thoughts or points, but you don't forget stories. And I think that's also really meaningful to have my sister share her story, being a mom, being a Black woman married to a white man from Ireland, raising a biracial baby. She talked about what it is like to give birth to an acceptable form of Blackness while still not being accepted herself in the world. And just the challenge of what her and Stefan are set out to do, you know, as a biracial couple, raising a biracial baby. So it was really, really meaningful. And then to be able to share a meal together after Kaleo Stories is so intentional and meaningful because now you're breaking bread with the people that share these stories. Now you're interested in the lives of the people that are sitting across from you, next to you. And so we had soup, different people made soups, we had bread. It was just a really good time, and several people just love that practice. So that's something quarterly that we try to do. And then we also had a kids story time. So somebody from our congregation named Hannah Jelly is a teacher, a reading teacher at her school. And we had her pick a book from our Kaleo Kids library and read the story to us. So we took pictures of the inside of the book and we put them on the screens as she was reading the story. And then I took a track on Spotify that was kind of whimsical and just laid it underneath. And it was really cool and meaningful. Yeah, just to have a story time for children. And the story was called What is God Like by Rachel Held Evans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, who passed away recently, I think 2018 or 2019 from seizures. Actually, which was wild, but her work is really meaningful.
You have a copy of that book?
Erica does, but we should get one for ourselves.
I'd love to get a copy.
So that was just such a meaningful thing. Like our Sunday gatherings take a lot of preparation and effort and intentionality, again, in the spiritual formation of people, but which is so meaningful. So this just month was full for Kaleo.
It was a full month.
But it's meaningful for sure. And I guess I'll then go into what's coming up next.
What's some stuff coming up, babe?
For February for Kaleo.
Valentine's Day month.
Yes, and Black History Month too.
And Black History.
First Sunday, you're going to be speaking.
Yeah.
February 6th.
That'll be fun.
The last 3 Sundays for me have been heavy in preparation and production, for lack of better words. And so I was like, Chris is actually gone this Sunday. Yeah. And I didn't want to speak because I just don't want to. So I was like,
I
babe.
want to speak. Chris can't speak. So she's like,
babe, you want to do it?
Yeah, she's like, hey, you want to do it?
Yeah, because then I'll be able to
Throw
just
it to
focus
me.
on setting up and tearing down and just being present with the people and relinquishing that to Kendall, who also I know wants to like further exercise him speaking too. And so I'm excited to hear you speak, babe. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're speaking on?
Nope.
Okay, that's fine.
I have to tune in.
You'll have to tune in or come.
Luke 5, in the first chapter, where
so that's
Peter
coming.
starts following Jesus. That's all I'll say.
Okay, there we go. So that's on the 6th. On February the 11th is Bridge Worship Collective performing at a Sigma, I believe is the name of their sorority, the Black sorority, Black Excellence.
I'd love to connect with them.
There goes the battery. 1 second.
Oh, no.
I gotta figure. Oh, that's what I need. I need to just plug it in, but I don't have an extension yet.
An extension cord or extension?
Just like a battery plug.
Yeah.
Like a plug for.
You want me to try killing that fly?
No, we can wait till after. Or we might let it out. I don't know. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay.
We are back.
And we're back.
We back.
So,
Camera died, but we back.
yeah, but Bridge Worship Collective, they're opening for a major event, for a Black sorority event that's happening here. And Donald's in there, Breton's singing, Camille and Kelly from Kaleo are part of it.
That's gonna be cool.
And several
That's gonna
other
be awesome.
talented multi-ethnic musicians and singers are a part of it. So I want to go and support him. So I'm going to do that. And then
That's
have
going to be fun.
Super Bowl Sunday on the 13th. Obviously, it's such a big day, so it doesn't make sense to have an evening service that night. And so we decided to do a morning service, which will be fun.
Interesting.
We're going to actually just have a table experience for the whole service.
Yeah.
And we're going to serve breakfast, and it's going to be an interactive eat together. Chris is going to share some thoughts. I might share a little bit here and there too. But I think he's primarily going to teach that day, and then we're going to interact with one another at the table and have discussion. We'll have the kids there with us as well, so they'll be able to draw and have games and stuff for them. Mm-hmm. So this will be the first time we do just the table for the whole gathering. Cool. So I'm excited about that because that was an idea my sister had. And then the 20th, we're not going to be at Kaleo, just because that is a rhythm that Chris and I have come up with, that every quarter there are 2 Sundays that we are just not there. One, I think it teaches our people to not rely on us, which I think we do a good job of that as anyway. It's not personality driven. Yeah. But 2, it also gives us a rhythm of rest, which we value culturally as Kaleo. And 3, I think it's mainly those 2 things, really. Yeah. So we haven't really planned a trip, but maybe we'll go for a weekend somewhere. I don't know, maybe drive up to Tucson or something like that.
Yeah, I've been trying to get down to Tucson.
Yeah, we were going to be gone on the 13th, but I didn't want to miss the Super Bowl Sunday service because we're doing something so unique. So that's the 20th. And then on the 27th, I'll be preaching on Transfiguration Sunday. So that'll be cool, and preparing for that, figure out what I'm going to say. And then we will also be participating with Ash Wednesday. We're going to go to Grace Lutheran and be a part of their service for Ash Wednesday.
That'll be cool.
So a big full month and some other cool things coming up.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Ash Wednesday.
Yeah.
It is Ash. When's Ash Wednesday?
I don't remember, actually. Ash Wednesday is... Oh.
Is it like the pie that went second to last?
Yeah.
Wednesday in February.
My computer's being a little... Yeah, it's spinning, but it's fine. But, babe, so we've been going for like 40 minutes.
Yeah, we've been going for a minute.
Yeah.
We can just run by real quick some cool things we did.
Together
this month, and just in our own personal lives.
Yeah.
Some cool things we did. It was a good month. Like I said in my video, it was a harder start of the month.
You want to put your phone on airplane mode real quick?
I know for us, we had got COVID the beginning of the month.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was crazy. Well, it actually wasn't COVID because our test came back negative.
But Kendall
I
thinks
felt like it was COVID.
Yeah. Because I keep hearing these stories of people
yeah.
testing again and again, and then it comes back positive.
Yeah.
So it's like if you don't catch it in that window, you don't know
if you had it. But because of it, I had to push back my surgery.
Yeah, that was annoying.
And so it's supposed to be sometime next month, in February. I had to figure that out, call them. And so that was tough the beginning of this month. There's also this crazy, weird month where like Toyota charged me twice, right, for my payment, for car payments. It was just like a weird start of the month.
Yeah.
And kind of just funky. Yeah, those are some of the big things at the beginning. What about the stuff you had? What else do we have going on, babe?
Oh, yeah. We went that first weekend, or one of the first weekends in January, we went to Erica's house, my sister, Erica and Stefan, and we did a Patreon vision meeting. So
that's right.
Just really excited. We want to be super intentional with what we create. I know we talked to you guys about that last time. So just our rhythm of creating content from week to week. We are also really seeking out an intern that can help us edit all this content we plan on putting out. You'll hear us on our social platforms make all these
intern.
Yeah, he's a non-paid intern, but his value add is that we're going to help him brand his business and himself, because that's something that I think we do really well, that he needs help with. And so he's excited to start. I've templated everything, so it's really easy work. It shouldn't be more than 2 hours a week, and then we'll also give him that value as well.
I need to say briefly, babe, all the stuff that we have going on, podcast, like all the stuff that's going just to give people an opportunity.
So one, it'll be book club stuff, which is, if you've seen our social content as of late, we've been reading Jesus and the Disinherited together. Kendall and I are reading that book and recapping what we're learning about that. Then we'll also be doing Dooley Loved, which is just our podcast together. We're doing a series right now where we're talking about everything we learned with our premarital counseling, who was also our counselor was a sexologist. And she's really awesome. And so all the lessons there. And then it'll also consist of Erica and Stefan Byrne, my sister and brother-in-law, talking about Interracial Chronicles is the name of their podcast. And they're going to be just talking about what it's like to be married to one another as an interracial couple, and then also raising a biracial baby. And then the Lashley Ladies is something that me, my mom, and sister are doing. That's just a fun, laughs-only type of podcast, super laid back, something that we did pretty consistently back in the day, and we'll be bringing it back. And then my parents, they love to cook. They love to do recipes and things. And so we'll be doing a Fit for Life Lashleys is what they call their stuff, episode with them. And my mom, they're building a house actually in Desert Ridge. And
that was another thing we did this month, was
helping them move.
Help them
well,
get some
you
of the
really
furniture.
did it. I didn't. I was helping upholster a chair. So we're doing a lot of like moving furniture projects. Yeah. But one of the big things with my parents is that once the house is built, which it should be done in May, Thanksgiving is going to be massive. Like Thanksgiving extravaganza. My mom loves to cook. All the family's going to be together. We're going to be inviting some other people as well. And so we're going to be recording a lot of those recipes and sharing like updates on their house and stuff like that. So that's going to be with them. And so our strategy for Patreon is to create all of this exclusive content in hopes that we can build that Patreon base and have a collection of a collaborative effort, so that our desire in the next few years is that becomes the main point of our fundraising for what we do. So we won't have to keep fundraising individually. We can just do it together. So that's exciting, and I love doing that stuff, and I think I'm pretty good at it, and I think everyone has really good things to say, so I'm excited to kind of help produce all of these things, which is helpful and awesome. So what else, babe?
So that was fun. We did have different dinners and things with people. We met up with Darien, which is a friend of yours growing up in Chicago, and worked with you at the church there. He had connected with a friend of ours, Josh G.
That's crazy.
Who's a friend of mine who we did ministry together at the church I was at before, and he lives in Texas, and Erin's family lives in Texas, and so they connected with one another, which was just a cool thing that happened during our reception back in October. And
that's
so
crazy.
it was cool catching up with him, Darien, And then who else do we have dinner with? I know Linda Morris. I know that's a big one, but
The Lindleys.
yeah, the Lindleys.
That was later on the month, but we did meet with them.
That's an awesome, amazing couple who's given to me in the past, and they're just doing a lot of cool things in the city.
Yeah. It was really cool being at their house. That was my first time. They live on like a high rise.
Yeah, they kind of like live a penthouse type thing.
Yeah,
in
and the
a
nicest
condo.
part of downtown Phoenix.
Yeah.
And so we were at like the top floor.
Yeah,
with them,
it was awesome.
And then they had us. We walked around the city and we got drinks with them. It was a really cool experience.
It was a whole experience that they kind of gave us. It's cool. Their house was so cool.
It's beautiful.
They have a frame TV, which is what we.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so we had dinner with them. That was awesome. Had dinner with this Linda Morris, who's an amazing. I don't know if she calls herself pastor. I call her pastor.
Yeah, I think she pastors a lot of people.
Yeah. She works at a church, a Pentecostal church down in South Phoenix, and has just been in the city of Phoenix for a long time.
Yeah.
Grew up and was born out east, northeast, America, but has been in Phoenix for a long time. Is just really familiar with the history here in Phoenix, and just kind of knows what's been going on here. And so it's awesome having dinner with her, and she kind of helped inspire your message that you gave that Sunday.
But that morning that we did, I think those were the dinners, but that morning we went to the MLK March.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That was meaningful. That was a good time going to the march. That was your first time.
It's my first time going to the march.
Done the march.
I actually never knew about it, and that's the cool thing. That's the difference between living in the suburbs in Arizona and living in downtown Phoenix, because you're just close to a lot more of social justice things because more people are a part of things like that down here. Really meaningful. Ran into a lot of different people, but I think several people from Kaleo, so we invited Kaleo to participate. Showed up. Several families from Kaleo showed up, and we marched together, and it was really cool because it started at Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church and ended right where Kaleo is, where we meet at Grace Lutheran Church, right by Margaret Hans Park.
Yeah.
So that was really cool and meaningful, and I don't know if you want to talk about some of the people we ran into.
Well, I just think it's funny because even just thinking about that, we ran into Akshay, who's one of my, who's an old guest teacher at ASU for me. And I was attending ASU. And we ran into him, and he was like saying, like, I get your emails, I get your videos, which is kind of like an encouraging thing. That like, hey, some of you guys are watching this.
Yeah.
You guys,
sometimes you feel like, is anybody listening to this?
Yeah. And so it was cool for him to be like, it's like, I know what's going on. You work at Neighborhood Ministries and all this stuff, which I thought was cool. So shout out to Akshay if you're watching this.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
But so we just ran into people like that.
Yeah, we ran into somebody else that I didn't meet but met at CCDA
at the
conference. That was crazy.
The conference we went to back in November.
Yeah, and it's funny because we had masks on the whole time, but he like recognized me from my eyes. I also think he recognized me from my afro because it's distinct look, But he was really cool, and it was wild to like run into him randomly. So we're supposed to get together with him later this month, actually, in February or next month. So that was cool running into Sean.
Yeah,
Sean social justice pastor at New City currently, and then
our Care and Justice pastor.
I'm sorry, Care and Justice, which is meaningful. And then another couple, Paige, I forget her husband's name.
Another couple, Paige and Anthony, who they attend New City. She's part-time there as their arts director. Yeah,
which is cool. Running to your old teacher, which you talked about. Several families from Kaleo, which was cool. The whole thing was just meaningful. And then we walked around the park because they had a big festival set up.
We ran into one of my students, Jasmine.
Jasmine, that was cool.
Where I found out, I guess her like great aunt is the one who like coordinates and plans the Martin Luther King March every year.
Small world.
So one of the students that disciple, she's related to that person, which is cool.
It's pretty dope. That whole march was awesome. Another cool thing we got to do together, which was just fun and leisurely, was go to the DSmoke conference.
That was fun. We were a little nervous because it's COVID, right, and stuff, so we didn't stay the whole time. And had masks and all that stuff. But it was a cool thing. DSmoke's a cool rapper who won Rhythm and Flow. Just this rap competition show that was on Netflix. I want to say, when was that? Maybe 2019, 2018, something like that.
I think 2019.
Yeah, and so he's really cool, similar to Kendrick Lamar, where he actually has a lot of stuff to say in his raps and a lot of meaningful things.
And he's fluent
Speaking of
in
culture
Spanish
and justice.
too.
Yeah, and he's fluent in
cool.
Spanish, which is cool. So it was cool to see him perform.
Little fly. Ugh. We'll kill that thing or let it freeze.
Big too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, then talk about how Ali Dominique opened for him. And
Ali Dominique, which is he was another rapper who was on that show.
The Rubik's Cube guy.
Rubik's Cube guy. He made it. He was like top 5 contestant, so he was kind of in the last rounds of it too. And he's here in Phoenix. I can't remember if he's from Phoenix or not. If he was born here or what, but he's from here. He's lived here for a long time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he had opened up for before DSmoke went, and he's cool because a student I used to mentor, Andy, was his background dancer, and then my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, Isha, that's her cousin, and so it's kind of cool.
Small world.
Yeah, small world. Yeah. Seeing him up on stage performing.
I think it was most meaningful to me to be there, just to be in the presence of someone like DSmoke and to witness his art. I described it to you when we were going. It's like I want to give my body more opportunities to witness certain things.
Yeah.
And I want my body to experience someone else's art. Like it does impact your whole being, like holistically. Someone's art impacts you, and that's somebody that I wanted to witness. And it was really cool to be there. What's also really cool about where the concert was in the basement of our office workspace.
Yeah.
So in the basement of our office space is Valley Bar, which is cool. So it's just like the crossover. Being in downtown Phoenix is such an experience. So I enjoyed that a lot. And then, the last thing that we got to do together was the Shared Legacies film showing at Pilgrim Baptist Church.
We got to see a cool documentary that was on the African American and Jewish Civil Alliance that was going on during the Civil Rights time in the 1960s, and just talked about Martin Luther King and his relationship with different rabbis in the area, and how a lot of Jewish leaders kind of came alongside Black clergy in marches and talking about racial justice. It was a really cool documentary, and kind of talked about too about how why that alliance isn't as strong now as it was back then, and kind of talked about the history of that too, of where we're at now. And so that was cool. And they had 2 professors at ASU, one of like Jewish studies, and the other lady was, I can't remember what she was.
I want to say African American studies, but
was she? She may have been. She may have been. But they were the professors who kind of like talked after the documentary, so that was cool.
And facilitated like a interactive group discussion,
kind of like a panel group discussion type thing.
Yeah. So wow, that's just January.
Yeah, that's
what
just
a
January.
Full month.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's gonna be a lot of good stuff this year.
Yeah. And every month is like that. It's kind of cool. It's actually meaningful to do these for you guys as our supporters, because it reminds us of all the work that we're doing.
Yeah, allows us to reflect.
Yeah, and I think that it's really good having that type of reflection.
Good practice.
So, gosh, I don't know if you're seeing this fly, but it's dang big.
We'll get this fly.
Liberate the fly, babe. Get it out. Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, we'll see you next month.
Thanks, you guys.
We love
As
you
always,
guys.
Love y'all. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for doing this work with us. Bye.